Hi everyone! So this is the second video about the laws of exponents. If you haven't watched the first one, make sure you pause this one, watch that, and come back to this. Okay, so let's get started. In the last video, we took a look at about 5 of the laws. These are the ones we looked at. So the first one was if I have any base a raised to an exponent times the same base a raised to another exponent, then I just add the exponents. Next, if I divide, instead of multiplication, if I divide them, if I have the base raised to a power divided by the same base raised to another power, then I subtract the exponents. Then we looked at what if I raise the base to a negative exponent. Then we just flip it around, it becomes 1 over the same whatever we have here, the same thing here goes in here, and except the negative exponent now becomes a positive. Then we had a look at what if I raise anything to the 0th power, what does that become? And we saw that anything raised to the 0 power gives us just 1. Similarly, anything raised to the 1st power gives us a, because this is just a times 1. Right? So these were the laws we looked at. If you're not clear, you're confused, make sure you watch the first video and then come to this. Okay, so let's continue. The next law we're going to look at is if I have two bases, a and b, and I multiply them together and raise them to the same power, then that gives me a raised to that power times b raised to that power. Now don't get confused. Over here, we had the same base raised to different powers. Here, however, we have different bases raised to the same power. Now let's look at an example. If I have 10 raised to the second power, now you're telling me, wait, 10 is just one base. Where are the two bases? So here's the trick. 10 can be written as 2 times 5, right? In here we have our two bases, 2 and 5. So a, b raised to the n, a and b here are 2 and 5 respectively. So this would give me 2 raised to the second power times 5 raised to the second power. And we know that 2 raised to the second power is 4. 5 raised to the second power is 25. 25 times 4 gives us 100. Okay, so that's how you would solve this. If I had, say, 1 over 4 raised to the second power, then this is the same as 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, right? Raised to the second power. Now, even though they are exactly the same thing, you could still use the law. It's 1 over 2 raised to the second power times 1 over 2 raised to the second power. 1 over 2 raised to the second power. Make sure it's the whole thing. This is 1 over 4 times 1 over 4, which is 1 over 16. Okay, so if I have two different bases and I raise them to the same power, then it's base a times that power times base b times that power. And again, don't get confused. In the previous one, we were adding the powers. Here, right, we were adding the powers. But here, we are multiplying the bases, so just be careful about that. The next one is if I have two different bases, but I divide them. So here we were multiplying them. Here, if I divide them, then that becomes a to that power divided by b to that power. Let's look at an example. If I have, say, 50 to the second power, that would be 50 is 25 over 2, right? So that would be 25 over 2 to the second power. And then now we've got 50 to the second power to look something like that. Now we can use the law, and that becomes 25 raised to the second power over 2 raised to the second power. And it doesn't always have to be a whole number. It can be a fraction, like we looked at over here with 1 over 4. Can be a decimal also. So you have to be careful about not getting confused between these two laws and the laws we looked at before. Those were mostly for the exponents, and these are for the bases, okay? So just be careful about that. Let's do one more example here. If I have 14 raised to the negative first power, right? That is 14 raised to the negative first power is 7 over 2 raised to the negative first power, right? Oh, sorry. Sorry. My bad. Switch these. Sorry about that. If I had 7 raised to the first power, negative first power, that's 14 over 2 raised to the negative first power. That gives me 14 to the negative 1 divided by 2 to the negative 1. And from our previous laws, we know that if you have a negative number, then you just have to split them around. So I'm just going to write this separately for now, so we don't get confused. Divided by, I'm going to use this sign, 2 to the negative first, right? 14 would be 1 over 14 to the first power. And this becomes divided by 1 over 2 to the first power, right? And I'm just going to write that here. If I have 1 over 14 to the first power divided by 1 over 2 to the first power, we have to flip this around, so that becomes 1 over 14 times 2 over 1. That's 2 over 14. That is 1 over 7. Okay? Here, now, if you probably noticed, we don't have to do all this in order to get 1 over 7. If we just apply the rule here, any number raised to the negative exponent is 1 over that number, so we would get the answer directly. But if you chose to use this law, you would still get the answer. Okay? Now let's look at the final one. If I have any base a raised to an exponent and the whole thing raised to another exponent, then we just multiply the exponents. So if I had 15 raised to the second power times, the whole thing raised to the fifth power, then that would be 15 raised to the 2 times 5, which is 15 raised to the 10th power. Okay, simple. If I had 2 raised to the first power times the whole thing raised to the negative fourth power, that is 2 raised to the 1 times the negative 4, which is 2 raised to the negative fourth power. And we know if we have a negative exponent, it's a 1 over that value raised to the positive exponent. So, and notice here I'm just writing 4 in the denominator, because even if I wrote it like that, 1 raised to the 100th, 200th, 1000th exponent, whatever exponent you raise 1 to is still going to be 1. So it's kind of redundant to write it there. So I'm just going to write it like this: 1 over 2 raised to the 4th power. And 2 raised to the 4th power is 16. So this answer is going to be 1 over 16. Okay? So these are the laws of the exponent. I hope you understood. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Thank you.